Legend is a Visual Studio extension which provides us with a DSL toolset for web acceptance testing in an Agile environment. As we can see on the screen, we have a sample user story that was written using the Atlassian Jira product. This user story has a title, Legend sample story, and several acceptance criteria that were written by analysts. Each acceptance criteria has a keyword and several given when and then steps. The first feature we're going to look at is the ability to take a user story and define steps. Legend will allow us to do this by right-clicking our project, selecting Add New Item. From here, we can select New Legend Test from User Story and give it a sample name such as Sample Test. At this point, Legend is asking us for a Jira number. We're going to put in the Jira number for our sample story, and we'll see that our test documentation was generated from the acceptance criteria. You'll see that this is a skeleton filled with scenarios, test setup, teardown, and a suite information section at the top defining the purpose and the author of the test. We can click on a link which takes us straight to the Legend sample story in Jira itself, and we never have left the development environment in order to do this. Finally, we can flip back to our test. Now that we have defined our high-level test steps, we will provide executable automation for a particular step. Legend integrates directly with a web modeling and automation framework to enhance the DSL. We're going to specify executable automation for logging into a specific product. First, we're going to define that we are on a specific page. Now we're going to define the automation by setting the username text box to Melanie and setting the password text box to password. And finally, clicking the login button. You'll notice that the high-level step and I log into Ultipro as Melanie the employee is collapsible, and the entire scenario is collapsible as well, and if we wish we could expand them once again. Now that we have defined executable automation steps, we could execute the test and debug it right within the editor. We will start by setting a breakpoint on a specific line, in this case when we set the username text box to Melanie. Next we click start, which will start executing the test, and once we hit the breakpoint, we can actually use the controls such as stepping over, which will actually go ahead and execute the first line. We can step over the second line, and finally we can hit continue, which will finish off the test and close the system under test. When we first defined automation steps, we hard-coded the values for Melanie and password. Legend provides us with the ability to use formal parameters instead. We will start by replacing the string Melanie with the formal parameter username, denoted by a leading ampersand. We will do the same for the password string. Once we have defined formal parameters, we will go ahead and use another feature provided by Legend, the data manager. The data manager, among many other features, allows us to define sets of values for parameters. When setting parameters, the data manager window is scoped by scenario, so we will ensure to choose the first scenario, which will automatically show us all available parameters, which we must provide values for. We can begin to provide as many values as we would like. What we have accomplished is that at runtime the first scenario will execute as many times as we have parameter values, in this case 4. Now we would like to synchronize our test documentation to a test case inventory such as Team Foundation Server. We will start by right-clicking the editor, which will show our inline editor menu. We can select Sync to Test Inventory to begin the sync operation. Upon a successful synchronization, we could right-click again and choose Go to Work Item, which will open up a tab right within the editor and show us our test documentation on Team Foundation Server. Observe that this is an exact representation of our test documentation, and there is a link scenario corresponding to the scenario in our Legend test. If we open up the scenario, we will find the associated test steps as they appeared on our Legend test. Another activity we could do is right-click and select Copy Work Item Link. This will copy the Team Foundation Server work item right into our clipboard, allowing us to use in-editor messaging features to ask for a peer review of our test suite, providing our peer with a direct link to the inventory. Finally, we would like to show the ability to categorize our tests using a feature taxonomy. We could begin to add tags to our Legend test in order to give the test suite special domain meaning. The available tags are externally maintained, and the user could only choose tags that are valid and within the acceptable list. Once we have tagged our test suites, we could use another feature provided with Legend called the Test Explorer. The Test Explorer allows us to view all of our test suites in special groupings, either by project, author, or by tag. If we group the Explorer by tags, we will see all Legend tests granular to the scenario grouped by tag usage. If we double-click on a scenario within the Explorer, the associated Legend file will open and the user will be taken right to the scenario. We could also group the Test Explorer by author, and finally we can group it by project. Last but not least, we have the ability to selectively execute tests right from the Test Explorer. After execution, the Test Explorer will provide us with pass-fail feedback. In this particular instance, we will see that the tests that we have executed have passed.